I came home earlier than planned that evening, carrying nothing but routine in my head. The house felt strangely quiet, not peaceful but hollow, as if sound itself had stepped back. I remember noticing the hallway light still on and the bedroom door not fully closed. Small details that meant nothing seconds before suddenly felt heavy, deliberate, almost staged. When I pushed the door open, the scene did not explode. It settled. My wife was in our bed with my stepbrother. No struggle, no shock on their faces. Just a pause that seemed to stretch time thin. I did not shout. I did not move. My body stayed still while my mind started disconnecting from the life I thought I had built. She started crying almost immediately, not in panic but in release. There was no apology in her voice, no reaching out. It was as if the secret had grown too large and finally broke its container. My stepbrother said nothing. He did not need to. His presence explained itself. Then she said it calmly through tears, like a confession she had rehearsed for years. She told me she never wanted to marry me and that she had always wanted him. The words did not feel sharp. They felt final. Something inside me shut off the moment they landed. I did not argue. I did not ask how long. I did not ask why. Instead, my attention drifted to the details I would later remember with unsettling clarity. The smell of familiar sheets that suddenly felt foreign. The clock on the wall ticking too loudly. The way the room looked smaller than it had ever looked before. Silence filled the space between us and spoke louder than anger ever could. I realized in that moment that this was not a betrayal created in one night. It had been living quietly among us for years. I was simply the last one to see it. The marriage I believed in did not collapse. It dissolved. I turned around and walked out. I did not say goodbye. There was nothing left that required words. As I closed the door behind me, I understood something with painful clarity. Betrayal did not begin that night. It ended that night. I did not leave the house to make a scene. I left to regain control. By morning, I had already decided what I would not do. I would not call friends. I would not explain myself to family. I would not give anyone the satisfaction of watching me unravel. Shock belonged to the night before. This day required clarity, and clarity demanded distance. It was the first decision I made without emotion guiding my hands or my voice at all. There was no announcement of separation. I did not post cryptic messages or seek sympathy. I simply began undoing the life we had tied together. Accounts were separated methodically. Automatic payments were canceled. Appointments were removed from shared calendars. I removed my name from commitments quietly, efficiently, without confrontation. Each task felt procedural, almost boring, and that boredom told me I was surviving. It gave structure to days that might have otherwise collapsed under confusion and grief alone entirely then. I did not confront them again. I did not ask for explanations that would only bruise pride. I packed essentials, chose a temporary place to stay, and changed my routine overnight. Phone calls went unanswered. Messages remained unread. I allowed absence to speak for me. People whispered that I had fallen apart. I let the story grow because correcting it required energy I needed elsewhere. Protecting my focus mattered more than defending my image during moments like stage of life. What surprised people was my calm. They expected rage or public collapse. Instead, there was nothing to point at. No accusations. No dramatic exit. Just a man quietly removing himself from a story that no longer belonged to him. I knew visibility would feed speculation. Disappearing denied it oxygen. While they searched for reactions, I was building space to think. That space became essential because clarity does not grow inside noise, crowds, or constant explanation to curious observers and judges. I understood then why silence unsettles people. It gives them no role, no audience, no resolution. They assumed I was broken because broken men explain themselves. I did not. I moved forward quietly, letting absence rewrite their expectations. Silence was not weakness or fear. It was intention. It became my first strategy, and it carried me out intact without shouting, pleading, or leaving pieces of myself behind for anyone to analyze, judge, or misunderstand later in their retelling of events. I moved to a city where no one knew my name or my history. The decision was practical, not dramatic. A smaller apartment, closer to work, quieter streets. I built my days around simple structure. Morning walks, consistent meals, early nights. Familiar routines replaced the chaos I had left behind. Stability became my priority, not happiness yet. I needed a life that did not shake when memories surfaced unexpectedly. This distance allowed breathing room I had never experienced before there. Work became my anchor during that period. I focused on results, not recognition. I improved my health without announcing it. Regular exercise, medical checkups, better sleep. I stopped numbing evenings with noise and distraction. There was no dating, no casual conversations meant to fill silence. I wanted to know who I was without being desired, chosen, or needed by anyone. That discipline slowly rebuilt confidence that betrayal had damaged but never fully erased over time through quiet consistency daily actions. Months passed without confrontation or updates. I knew they noticed my absence from a distance. Mutual acquaintances mentioned my name carefully, as if testing reactions. I did not ask questions. I was learning to live without measuring myself against their choices. The anger softened into awareness. I was no longer rebuilding to prove anything. I was rebuilding because this version of life finally felt honest. Honesty became my compass, guiding decisions without resentment or urgency anymore in daily living habits. I met someone later, not through searching but through timing. There was no rush to impress or explain. I moved slower than before. I listened more than I spoke. This time, I asked harder questions and waited for answers that matched actions. I paid attention to patterns, not promises. Trust was no longer automatic. It was earned gradually, through consistency, respect, and emotional stability. Caution protected me without closing my ability to connect deeply again with someone new, eventually slowly. I understood something essential during that rebuilding. Healing did not return me to who I was before. It refined me. I became selective with time, energy, and access. I no longer confused intensity with truth or familiarity with loyalty. What survived that period was not bitterness. It was precision. Healing did not make me softer. It made me exact, aware, and difficult to mislead again. That precision quietly reshaped every decision that followed and protected my future completely from harm. I met her without expectation, during a season when my life was finally steady. She did not rush intimacy or question my caution. When I said I needed space, she accepted it without testing limits. There were no emotional games, no sudden moods to decode. Calm followed her naturally. For the first time in years, I felt no pressure to perform or explain. Her presence added ease, not urgency, to ordinary moments. It felt safe, balanced, and quietly reassuring always. Over time, I shared my past honestly, without drama or bitterness. I told her what betrayal taught me and what it cost. She listened without comparison or defensiveness. She never tried to replace memories or minimize scars. Instead, she respected them as chapters already written. Her patience allowed trust to grow naturally. There was no rush toward labels or promises. We let consistency do the work words once failed to do between us, slowly, carefully, without force or fear present. What felt different was the absence of chaos. Conversations stayed grounded even when topics were difficult. Disagreements did not threaten connection. Silence was comfortable, not suspicious. I noticed how my body responded around her, relaxed rather than alert. That awareness mattered. Love no longer felt like something to win or protect constantly. It became something shared, maintained through respect and daily reliability. Stability replaced intensity, and it felt stronger. This calm rewired my expectations and restored quiet confidence fully inside. When I proposed, there was no fear attached to the question. I did not worry about outcomes or rejection. I trusted the foundation we had built patiently. The proposal was simple, intentional, and private. She accepted without surprise, as if we both knew the answer already. That moment did not feel like a gamble. It felt like alignment between two adults choosing peace over uncertainty together. There was relief, certainty, and mutual respect anchoring the decision firmly in our lives. I understood then how love changes after damage. It stops demanding proof and starts offering safety. It does not test loyalty through pain. It listens. It waits. With her, love felt calm and spacious. No performances, no ultimatums, no fear of sudden loss. Peace became the measure, not passion. For the first time, love did not ask me to shrink or fight. It simply allowed me to stay. That realization confirmed I was finally home emotionally with another human being. 2 weeks before the wedding, my phone lit up while I was reviewing seating arrangements at the kitchen table. The evening was calm, Ordinary, exactly how I like my life now. When I picked up the phone, the name on the screen pulled me out of that calm instantly. It was hers. I had not seen it, heard it, or thought I ever would again. Time collapsed into a single sharp pause. I stared at the screen longer than necessary, noticing how my body reacted before my thoughts did. My chest tightened, not from longing, but from surprise. Years of silence had trained me to believe that chapter was sealed. I had changed cities, routines, and habits. I was preparing to marry a woman who knew me fully. That name belonged to a past I had carefully dismantled and stored away. The message was short. There was no apology waiting inside it. No reflection, no accountability, no acknowledgement of the damage left behind. Instead, it carried urgency, as if time itself were suddenly running out. She needed to talk. She needed to explain. She needed something. The absence of remorse spoke louder than words. It told me more than any confession ever could. I did not answer immediately. I placed the phone face down and returned to the table, but my attention drifted. I wondered what version of herself was reaching out now. I wondered what had failed in her life to push her toward my number again. Most of all, I wondered why the timing was so precise, so intrusive. Some instincts do not fade with healing. They sharpen. That night, sleep came late. Not because I missed her, but because I understood what the message represented. It was not about closure. It was about interruption. I had rebuilt myself quietly, deliberately, without involving the people who broke me. Her message was a reminder that unfinished business often waits until you are stable enough to withstand it. By morning, the unease had settled into clarity. I realized some names do not return to reconnect. They return to test whether old doors are truly locked. And seeing her name again reminded me of something important. Some doors feel sealed until the past decides to knock without warning, right when you believe the house is finally secure. That moment confirmed growth means recognizing threats without letting them inside again quietly permanently. I agreed to a brief call, nothing more. I chose the time and kept my voice neutral. When she spoke, I heard exhaustion before recognition. Her confidence was gone, replaced by careful pauses. She told me she was divorced now. Papers signed, house sold, life rearranged into something smaller. The stepbrother was gone too. He had left quietly, the same way affairs often end, without loyalty, without rescue, without apology. She spoke slowly, as if choosing safer versions of the truth. She said the collapse did not happen overnight. It came through months of silence, financial strain, and disappointment that no one witnessed. Friends drifted, promises thinned. The life she chose eroded piece by piece. I listened without interrupting, noticing how regret reshapes memory when consequences arrive late. Then she said she had made a mistake. Not impulsive, not emotional, just factual. She said she needed closure. Or maybe help. The distinction mattered to me. I asked nothing about feelings. I asked about accountability. Silence answered before she did. Some losses only become visible after everything else is gone. I felt no urge to defend myself or revisit the past. The power had shifted quietly. I was no longer the one explaining or convincing. I told her I could not offer what she was seeking. Stability cannot be borrowed from the future of someone else. I wished her well without softness or cruelty. When the call ended, I understood the truth clearly. She was not calling for love or forgiveness. She was calling because her ground had disappeared. I had become a symbol of order she no longer possessed. Regret ages badly when comfort is gone. And in that moment, I knew silence had protected me for a reason. I chose to keep it. I did not feel victorious after that conversation. I felt resolved. Experience teaches that regret often seeks shelter, not repair. At this stage of life, clarity matters more than sympathy. I returned to my plans, my routines, and the future I was building deliberately. Her voice faded back into silence where it belonged. What remained was certainty. She had not reached out to reconnect hearts. She reached out because stability attracts those who have lost it. That understanding closed the door completely. It confirmed that growth means recognizing need without answering it, and choosing self-respect over nostalgia every single time again in adulthood. Without hesitation, I did not insult her when we spoke again. I kept my tone level and my words brief. There was nothing to gain from reopening wounds or listing offenses. I had already processed that history privately. Revisiting it would only give the past fresh air. At this stage of life, repetition is a form of self-harm. I chose restraint because restraint preserved dignity, and dignity mattered more than being understood by anyone watching from the outside anymore now today. I told her the truth without cruelty or decoration. She did not lose me that night in the bedroom. She lost me earlier, the moment she spoke without thinking and revealed who she was. That sentence rewrote every memory I carried. It removed doubt and replaced it with certainty. There was nothing left to debate. Trust does not survive clarity like that. Once truth arrives, the attachment collapses quietly without resistance, without noise, without regret from me anymore at all. After the call ended, I blocked her number without hesitation. I deleted the message thread and emptied the digital space she had briefly occupied. There was no ceremony to it, just completion. Those actions were not punishment. They were protection. Access is earned, not assumed. Removing it restored balance immediately. I felt no rush of emotion, only relief. Some doors must close fully to prevent future knocking from places that once caused damage and confusion again later on purpose forever. I returned my attention to the life waiting in front of me. Wedding plans sat neatly on the table, untouched by that interruption. I reviewed details with calm focus and renewed certainty. This was my direction now. Forward, steady, chosen. I did not explain the call to my partner because it held no power. Transparency does not require reopening closed chapters. Peace deserves protection, especially when it has been earned slowly through patience, growth, discipline, and deliberate adult choices made. That was the moment I understood closure differently. It is not something granted or negotiated. It is something taken quietly by those who respect themselves. I did not need agreement or acknowledgement. I needed alignment. Blocking her was not bitterness. It was boundaries functioning properly. Closure is not always mutual, and it does not need to be. Sometimes it is personal, private, and final because self-respect decides when the story truly ends without applause, witnesses, or further explanation required. After 40, life stops rewarding noise. Experience teaches what applause never could. Betrayal did not reduce my value. It exposed the character of those involved. I learned that loyalty cannot be negotiated and trust cannot be repaired once truth is spoken clearly. What breaks is not always the man who is hurt. Often it is the illusion he carried. Losing that illusion is painful, but it is also liberating in ways youth cannot understand yet. Silence became my education. I learned that quiet decisions last longer than emotional reactions. Walking away without explanation was not weakness. It was discipline. Starting over required humility, patience, and consistency. There is no failure in rebuilding at this age. There is only choice. Choice to heal. Choice to protect peace. Choice to stop proving worth to people committed to misunderstanding it. Time clarified another truth. Some people live inside regret because they never outgrow their decisions. Others accept consequences and move forward. I stopped waiting for remorse or understanding. Neither was necessary. Growth does not require shared reflection. It requires personal responsibility. The distance I created allowed wisdom to replace anger. That transition mattered more than any apology that arrived too late to be useful. I did not disappear to punish anyone. I stepped away to survive intact. Survival after betrayal means choosing clarity over chaos. It means protecting energy, guarding peace, and refusing to re-enter cycles that drain purpose. Life after 40 rewards those who move deliberately. Stability is built quietly, day by day, through decisions that honor health, integrity, and emotional boundaries without apology. This chapter ended without spectacle. I did not seek revenge or validation. I chose continuation. Disappearing was not abandonment. It was preservation. That decision allowed me to build a future untouched by past choices that were never mine. I survived by leaving, and in doing so, I saved my life in the most permanent way possible. Wisdom after 40 is simple but uncompromising. It asks fewer questions and gives firmer answers. It values peace over presence and truth over comfort. I no longer chase explanations or alternate endings. I invest in what grows steadily. What remains is a life shaped by intention, not reaction, and that difference defines freedom more clearly than love, money, or approval ever could. This understanding arrived slowly, earned through loss, discipline, and courage that maturity alone can sustain over many uncelebrated years together.